Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am Mark Promise Hoffmeyer.
And I am Jay, not a coffin, Cluett. And this is Deep Blue Sea 3, Chapter 8. I'm glad I came up with a second, an alternative intro name, because my original was also Promise.
I wrote both of those quotes down.
Yes!
Not a lot of dialogue in this chapter, but a lot of action. So what happens in Deep Blue Sea 3, Chapter 8, let me tell you. There's a lot of jumping around in the chapter. So I've isolated it to different groups at a time, just for brevity. So Spin and Mia are trapped in the sinking fish restaurant. Spin goes out to see if there is a shark outside, leaving a terrified Mia waiting on an upturned cupboard with a big knife. Spin returns, explaining one of the sharks is right outside and they need to hide, but the shark follows them in. They climb through a hatch up to the first floor of the restaurant, where Spin gives a speech telling Mia why he loves her. Mia sees Spin is cut and bleeding into the water, but the shark seems to have gone. And then it bursts through the floor and drags Spin down to his death. The floor collapses and Mia rolls off and into the water. Terrified and alone once more, she hides in a cupboard, chanting, "Not a coffin," to herself as the shark swims around her. She screams as the restaurant collapses around her, and the shark swims away, leaving a bloody trail. Meanwhile, Shaw runs into Lucas, still brandishing his explosive projectile launcher, which he points at Lucas until they decide to fight it out instead. Lucas gives Shaw a beating to the ground, but Shaw recovers with a jab to the groin and some face smacks. Lucas spin kicks Shaw into a tree and heads back to the ship, telling the nearby Earls to finish Shaw off. This turns out to be a mistake, as after some headlocks and grapples, Shaw tries to strangle Earls on the floor. They both give a panicked look to one side, and Shaw manages to flip onto his back and lift a frantic Earls into the air as a bull shark leaps out and bites Earls' head clean off, leaving Shaw bloodied and shook. Meanwhile, Emma is underwater. Dr. Emma Collins is underwater, heading for the mine Lucas's men planted to sink Little Happy. She locates it and sets about removing it with a knife, but is attacked by Shill underwater. They struggle, with Shill strangling Emma until he is ripped from her and eaten by Great White Sally. Emma finishes removing the mine, only to be confronted by the two bull sharks. They retreat as she brandishes the mine at them, and they clearly recognise it. Shaw makes it to the church and is joined by Nandi brandishing a harpoon and warning Shaw that the Thassos is about to leave, having raised its anchor. Shaw relays this to Emma, telling her she needs to disarm the mine. She asks if he can distract the bulls, and that's where the chapter ends. It's a triple death week! 3 deaths!
Wow.
3 different sharks. We need someone to help us talk about this. Mark, who is joining us?
All right, we got another returning guest. He joined us when we talked about Deep Blue Sea. Now Aaron Neuwirth is back to talk to us about... this is stressful. Welcome, Aaron, but there's a lot to talk about, man. Jeez Louise.
It's Aaron Spin Kick Neuwirth, for one thing. And I am happy to be here. I'm happy to be returning for what is a good movie, because, boy, I watched Deep Blue Sea 2 also in preparation for this podcast, and that movie is awful. So I was very happy that this movie is not only not awful, but quite good. And then, knowing the chapter assignment, I'm also like, I'm glad you guys picked me for the best chapter of this franchise. Because this is amazing, everything that happens in this chapter.
This is a very backloaded film, I would say. Like, the front half is good. We like the whole film. But action-wise, it's towards the end where things really kick into gear.
Did I mention the spin kicks? Because I believe I did.
You know what? I think you're right. Of all the chapters that we've watched, we're over 50... I would say we're close to being over 50 chapters right now for the 3 Deep Blue Sea films. This is the best chapter of all 3. Now...
I might have misspoke. I didn't mean franchise.
I'm telling you.
Thing.
Because, listen, some of these have, 1 death, right? But this one has 3 deaths, spin kicks. It has, a surprise death. It has a great white appearance, murdering a henchman, then cruising.
Recognizing mines.
One of the best jump scares where she turns around with the mine and the sharks are there. Pound for pound. I'm just going to say it. This is the best chapter of the 50 we've covered so far. I'm saying
when you praise it that way, yeah, you're not wrong. There is a lot of good. This is gold. This is all that glitters is right gold right here. That's for sure. I mean, you have Sam Jackson death in that first one, and you had obviously the chapter that I was on featuring Stellan Skarsgård's death in Deep Blue Sea, which is one of the other best episodes of this podcast, clearly. But this one, yeah, this is pound for pound packed with stuff happening, to the point where, our lead character Emma, I just wrote Emma's underwater 3 times before something actually happens to her. But then that stuff is really good when stuff happens to her. So.
I have to give the caveat that chapters in Deep Blue Sea 3 are 3 to 4 times the length of those in Deep Blue Sea 1. So there is the opportunity for there to be more stuff in them. But even given that, this is definitely up there as one of the best. I'm not going to flat out say this is the best. I would need to go back, have a look, reconsider it. It's definitely better than it's the best chapter of the sequels. I will say that.
I mean,
I'm sticking with
that's
my
more what
thing.
that's more what I meant when I was saying this to begin with. But the way Mark laid it out just then, and obviously I trust Mark more because he's a member of the Fast family, and of course he has all these things going on where Jay's the washed up former host of the Blamcast. So I mean, I have
It's
to
true.
lead on one
Yeah.
side.
I was really waiting for that Jurassic Park Fast Furious rumored crossover, just so I'm part of the Jurassic Park family. I'm not. If the two films melded, then I'd be part of it. But
they both have animated shows on Netflix. That's where I feel like it's going to happen if it happens anywhere. Let me just say that right.
I saw a tweet that made me rethink my entire existence recently, which was like the Fast and Furious films don't need to merge with the Jurassic Park franchise to have dinosaurs in them. They could just put dinosaurs in them. You can put dinosaurs in any film. I just thought, why doesn't everyone do that? Why can't we just have dinosaurs in all of the films?
I'm pretty sure movie logic dictates if you have either a musical number or a dinosaur, your movie's 100% better. I think that's fact.
I mean, agreed. Think of how bad Fallen Kingdom would be without dinosaurs.
You're right. Yeah.
That's the saving grace.
Fast 10, Triceracop from Kung Fury pops up.
Oh my word.
And then from Barb and Star, the talking Morgan Freeman crab shows up as well. And then the three just blend universes. That'd be my favorite movie ever made. Imagine that.
I'm not hearing something bad here.
Yeah, let's go. What are we waiting for?
Also, another thing that makes this the best chapter of the 50 chapters we've talked about is the fight between Lucas and Shaw. Not before I love before the fight starts. Where
I agree.
Hey, neighbor.
Yeah. We ain't gonna do this. All right, old man. And then Shaw's reaction to it. Just like, oh no, I ain't got my hearing aid. Come on, son. Or you call me son? As my life as a bouncer, I've seen so many fights in bars, and I think 80% of them start like this. So just seeing a movie.
Terribly.
Seeing a movie where it's like, hey old man, hey son, like come on. Like, seeing that, like it just, it gives it so much personality, this fight. It's just, and it's the first like legit fist fight in the franchise, and it features multiple spin kicks. It's a thing of beauty, and it's different, but I just love the two of them going like, what, old man, come on, son. Like I was expecting like the whole Dane Cook bit where like chief, son, and then like just that whole breakdown, but I love how this fight kicked off, and it just made me so happy.
I like how it kicked off. It's the fight itself I think is fine because spin kicks are great. I just think Shaw should have gotten more like hits in relative to what Lucas is throwing at him, because it seems like if we had like a build up to these two and you saw like singular fights before with like Shaw like taking Shaw has like ninja movie logic where if there's like 20 ninjas he can fight all of them out relatively simply, but suddenly it's one guy and it's like this guy's infinitely difficult. So it's like Taken 2. I feel like exactly. So I feel like I got a little shortchanged on how much ass Shaw could be kicking because we're just seeing him fight like this one dude and he's like really beating him up. Of course, Shaw gets the upper hand at the end, but it's with another guy, so it's like, all right, well.
R.I.P. Earls.
That's the bit that feels like a cop-out to me, is like he's fighting Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Lucas is kind of winning, but he also seems tired. And then Lucas is like, you can finish it off because we've got this cool death we want to do, but not to the main villain. Let's just hand it off to the henchman who's watching in the background.
And I like how you see the henchman watching earlier in the fight. Like I wrote that down on my notes. Like he's watching the fight happen. He's like, "This is great. We have this great time here." And then you can see the movie's literally like getting bored with this fight and decides, "All right, we need to spice things up here. Let's bring another person in just so we can off him,
tag him in." Yeah.
The fight does feature the best low blow since Jupiter Ascending. And I know there's a good one in Endgame, but it was just very nice to see. Like, this is such and it's another one. It's an unexpected low blow in a fight.
Like the nut shot that Shaw gives to Lucas at one point?
Yeah, because he's just getting stomped, and then he just, hits him right in the plums. And
Shaw, it turns out, is a dirty fighter.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against him. In the circumstances, don't blame him at all. He's getting beaten. But the fact that he initiates a fight with a come on bitch, it means maybe I don't like this guy that much anymore. Shaw's been like one of my favorite characters throughout, but then he has the nut tap in the middle of this. Just I don't know.
It's a life or death fight here.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I was gonna. If you're on, it's not like they're in a ring and it's Mortal Kombat or something where the rules very much matter. Obviously,
the Marcus of Fiend rules.
yeah, it's the markers of chivalry start at Mortal Kombat. But no, it is a fight where it's on like a floating atoll where there are dangerous sharks lurking around. I feel like sinking. I feel like the word fair fight kind of leaves the room at that point.
Yes, agreed.
Like you're doing what you need to do. I mean, if you make one wrong move, a flying shark takes off your head. So it's like, I want to not die in this scenario.
That's not a traditional move in fighting, is to hoist somebody above your head for a leaping shark to decapitate them.
I know I mentioned Mortal Kombat, by the way, which features one of the most famous of nut shots of Lyndon Ashby's Johnny Cage nutshotting Goro, of course, who takes it in stride by waving all two arms in the air, 2 arms on the crotch, and going, "Whoa!" And then Shang Tsung's like, "Get to me, fool!"
We get a close up of his eyes too, expanding.
Oh yeah, there's a cross. To his eyes cross.
Well, they do. No, they make the awkward. I just got hit in the balls in the face, which is very expressive for a very elaborate model that they made for that movie. So I'm not against it.
I also wrote down some other good ones: Hot Shots Part 2. Freaky, Bloodsport, Monster Squad, Army of Darkness, Caddyshack, Bad Santa, 21 Jump Street, The Beverly Hillbillies, The Hickory Nutcracker, Jim Varney, Ernest World, Butch Cassidy, Dark Knight, and, of course, Jupiter Ascending with Eddie Redmayne.
Is The Hickory Nutcracker a name of a film or the name of the movie?
So, in Beverly Hillbillies, Erica Eleniak, I think, she is one of the Beverly Hillbillies, and she joins the wrestling squad, and she gets into a wrestling match. This is a dirty fighter right here, because they are actually on a mat, like a high school mat, wrestling, and she gives him the Hickory Nutcracker. And she never gets called for it, which makes me wonder what the high school rule book is for wrestling in California, because that hurts. But yeah, she delivers the Hickory Nutcracker on him.
As we all know, high school sports tend to be pretty lenient on the rules. I mean, there's no rule that says dogs can't play basketball, and obviously we saw where that went with us. So, I mean,
yeah. And, that dog. So, this is random, but I got a video coming out soon for Fandom. I worked on, I did this video for them about, like, his athletics, and I had to watch all those movies. Like, Air Bud plays soccer, World Cup soccer for the Women's World Cup squad, and is a goalie, a backup goalie. And then wins the World Cup for the women's squad in this. And then he's the MVP of the World Series for baseball as a first baseman, which has only happened 3 times. Sorry, tangent.
Fair enough.
But I don't know how Air Bud's doing any of this.
He's a dog.
He's a talented dog.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
what were we talking about?
Lucas calling Shaw old man. I couldn't find Emerson Brooks' age online. He seems to be hiding it. Fine. But Bren Foster is currently 44, so filming this he would have been about 42. Shaw doesn't look to me that much older than 42. Emerson Brooks has been acting since 2003, when he was in like a episode of Forensic Files and Cuts and other shows I've never heard of. He was in like Heroes in 2007. He's a police officer. So he looks like a similar age. Like, not enough of a gap for Lucas to be calling him old man.
Yeah, I did wonder that too when they kept doing, because that's like a running thing. He's calling him old or whatnot. It's like, this guy is the one this is the joke you want to go with? I mean,
he's the oldest member of the cast, I would say is
yeah, that's for sure. Like, that seems to be the running theme of Deep Blue Sea movies, have an old black man as the cast. But it's like, he's not old. Like, he looks notably young by comparison.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a previous chapter, Mia called Dr. Emma Collins older, despite the two of them being the same age. The actress, they're both 31 at time of filming. So.
Yeah, I did, like, it feels like they had, like, they couldn't figure out another substitute joke or, like, running gag or platitude, so they're just like, I guess we'll go with age. I guess that's the way to establish dominance and seniority in this world. But they're not notably, elder looking components in this group of people that they have together.
I know you're only 2 years older than me, but you're still old man. Like, they could have had that line.
I know we were in the same year at school, but I love when Shaw gets called old and he's like formulating that hearing aid thing. His facial expression, he's really like chewing his words. His mouth goes all over the place, and it's really good to just watch in slow motion in silence.